Hello and welcome to World Talks here on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. Joining us now is Yevheniia Kravchuk, a Ukrainian MP, servant of the People Party. She speaks to us after President Volodymyr Zelensky's high-stakes talks with Donald Trump and European leaders at the White House. The meeting ended with cautious optimism, a discussion of possible direct talks between Zelenskyy and Putin, new security guarantees coordinated by Europe and the US, and pressure for progress without a ceasefire. But key questions remain about guarantees, concessions, and Ukraine's red lines. Yevheniia Kravchuk, welcome to TVP World, and thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. Okay, so let's start with big picture. Your initial impressions, takeaways from the meeting between the leaders yesterday.
Well, it looked like there was a better atmosphere since the last meeting in the Oval Cabinet. And also, it's extremely important not just to have the bilateral between President Trump and President Zelenskyy, but also showing that the common position of Europe, not just the European Union, but key players on the European continent are the same. And they see security of Ukraine as security of Europe, because other countries might not be in direct war with Russian Federation, but of course, they're not in peace either. With all these hybrid attacks, propaganda, with all of this shadow fleet, interference into elections, and so on and so forth. So Europe does see Russia as the existential threat for themselves. And of course, strong Ukraine is a key element to keep Russia away from Europe. So basically, it's important that United States are ready to be part of the security guarantees, because I think it's a common understanding of normal people that Russia cannot be trusted, and anything they put on paper cannot be trusted unless we have a concrete set of steps that will be taken immediately if Russia wants to start a war again.
All right, so let's start with security guarantees, one of the major pillars of the talks moving forward, peace talks, that is. Now, there are a couple of things. I mean, Secretary Rubio also said, well, we understand that any security guarantees need to be backed up with action. It's not just written on paper. That seems to be the American position. But tell me, what do security guarantees look like? What do they consist of?
Yesterday, during the meetings with European leaders, a few of the leaders mentioned, a formula that is close to the fifth article of NATO, but not being in NATO, well, at least right now. And it should be really practical. Imagine in 5 years there is a missile flying to Kyiv. What happens next? Will anyone help to intercept it? What would be the concrete steps in weapons? After the truce or ceasefire or a peace deal that will be accomplished. In Ukraine, we feel that the best security guarantee is a strong Ukrainian army, well armed and financed. So basically, it has to be part of the picture. Russia cannot dictate how big army of Ukraine should be, because we're not we don't want to leave close to this very aggressive neighbor without means to defend ourselves.
Now, there are indications that Russia has agreed in principle to security guarantees for Ukraine. But as always, the devil is in the detail, right? So is there a risk that Russia can agree to them and then drag their heels at every step, disputing each point until, the conversation goes nowhere and it continues for years?
Well, Ukraine is showing in all of the means possible that we're ready for any rounds of negotiations Zelenskyy and Putin together, Zelenskyy, Trump, and Putin together, adding European partners, hopefully. So we're open to that, and we'll see what would be concrete steps of Russia. Remember, President Zelenskyy was ready to meet Putin a few months ago in Turkey, but Putin sent a low-ranking delegation. Let's see what they will do now. But the problem is not Ukraine. All of the times, the problem lies in Moscow.
No, absolutely. I understand that. But my question is this. Is this supposed agreement by Russia for security guarantees, or two security guarantees for Ukraine, simply another delaying tactic, where they have no real strategic intention of allowing it, but they want the conversation to continue ad infinitum? Do you think that's a possibility?
I think we have to go out of the paradigm what Russia will allow in the terms what other countries do. They cannot, and should not interfere in the decisions of sovereign nations, especially the nations that are, much stable than Russia. I mean, Russia in the GDP per capita is 71st place ranking in the world. Only Germany is bigger in GDP than Russia. So if we talk what Russia agrees to, it has, it should not interfere in decisions of other countries. And again, I want to underline, Ukraine does not believe in any of the security guarantees from Russia itself. They can put whatever on the paper. We don't believe it. They already signed a paper in 1994, a Budapest memorandum, saying that there will be a guarantor of territorial integrity of Ukraine after Ukraine gave up nukes. Ukraine had one of the biggest arsenal of nuclear power in the 90s. We gave it up. And we got only a paper, and it was violated by Russia itself. So Russia is not part of security guarantees. Only the European continent and United States could be the security guarantees that Ukraine will believe in.
Would a ceasefire, certainly at the moment, if not, a permanent ceasefire, be a good sign of Russia acting in good faith in terms of bringing this war to an end?
We repeated it numerous times, and I think European leaders did as well yesterday, that it has to be at least a first step or a sign of goodwill to stop the bloodshed, to stop the killing, to stop attacking, especially civilians, because obviously they will not stop what the soldiers do on the ground, but why killing people? Why hunting them with drones? Another kid died just a few days ago in Kharkiv, 15 years old, civilian living in Kharkiv. But obviously, Putin wants to, show that he can dictate anything he wants. Well, obviously, it has to be another step from Russian Federation in some sort of the way, either meeting on the leaders level or a ceasefire, but it has to be something, because if not, even more pressure should be put on Russia.
OK, now let's move on to territorial concessions. Clearly, this is another major pillar of the talks going forward. Again, Putin isn't being precise, but it looks as though he wants to take over Donbass and leave Ukraine the rest of the occupied territories. Your thoughts on that proposition?
Well, first of all, we have to differ the acknowledgement of the de facto occupied territories that are under control of Russia and is not under control of Kiev, and recognizing them as the Russian territory. And it's not just the matter of Ukraine. Just I want to be clear, because it's basically the first rule of international world order after the Second World War is that countries should not change the borders of sovereign states by force. That was, basically an agreement that world came to after this bloody Second World War. So that's something that is important not just for Ukraine, but for all of the, hopefully, for most of the countries in the world. But of course, Ukraine is aware that we cannot deoccupy the occupied territories by military force. But as well, we cannot say they are Russian. For example, Cyprus has part of its territory, the northern Cyprus, basically occupied, not under control of Cyprus for more than 50 years, but they became a member of EU during that time. But basically, the recognizing of the change of the borders, that's clearly the red line.
So it's an illegal occupation. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. However, it is, those are the facts on the ground. Do you think that this is a price worth paying for permanent peace and very strong security guarantees for Ukraine?
We have to, again, see what are the security guarantees and what is, the reaction of all of the parties of these security guarantees. But again, for Ukraine, it's important to stop the war. And it's the Russia's fault why it's still ongoing. It wouldn't start if Russia would not attack. So it's not like both sides disputing over some sort of gray area. No, it's clearly illegal invasion. So our hope is that the aggressor will not walk out rewarded, because other aggressors around the world will just see and say, okay, well, we can do whatever. Let's put it in jeopardy because Russia was actually rewarded after the aggression. Let's do the same.
Well, clearly, that has been something, though, that Russia has done time and again. And I'm thinking in particular about Georgia, where there's a frozen conflict. And part of the aim was, of course, to prevent Georgia from ever being considered for NATO. Do you think that's part of Russia's plan for Ukraine as well?
Of course, Russia's plan for Ukraine is to have Ukraine under empire, part of empire. And basically, if Ukraine would not take this decision to fight Russia, we would turn at first to Georgia and then to Belarus. And then Russia will use Ukrainian territory, Ukrainian resources, Ukrainian human resources to attack other countries and to, make more expansion. So that was our, choice. And we are keeping this choice, not wanting to be a vassal of Russian Federation. But again, if in Tbilisi we would see these kind of meetings with the European leaders putting pressure, saying that the international world order does mean something, we would not have an invasion to Ukraine in 2014 because it started with Georgia, no basically reaction, then annexation of Crimea and the war on Donbass, basically, very small reaction, at least some sanctions were put. And then 2022, a full-scale invasion because Putin was pushing more and not just seeing any of the pushback.
Now, today is World Humanitarian Day, and it brings to mind the up to 50,000 Ukrainian children who have been deported to Russia. What can you tell us about the latest situation on those children?
Russians are now making websites with pictures of these kids for adoption, and they just put the Ukrainian regions. This kid is from Kherson, that kid is from Donetsk, and please adopt them. So basically,
I understand, Yevheniia. I've only got a few seconds. What is the situation in terms of negotiations for returning those children? Very, very briefly, if you would, please.
We want to return all of the abducted kids. We want to return all of the prisoners of war, and all of the civilians that are detained in a jail. And people should, of course, come first and come over any of the, discussions about territories, because people live on these territories.
Understood. Yevheniia Kravchuk, thank you very much indeed for sharing your analysis with our audience.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Stay safe. And that's all from us here on World Talks. Goodbye.